There is supposedly a ceasefire between America, Iran, Israel, and whatnot, but I am skeptical. Seems to have been a lot of ceasefire violations, so I expect those to stop if this is a real ceasefire. But this ceasefire could potentially completely fail. I really don't know. But for the rest of the video, I will just assume that the ceasefire will work. Regarding what happens in 2 weeks, I think there is a real possibility that the ceasefire doesn't get renewed, and Iran launches True Promise 5, and America launches more strikes. So the ceasefire sort of acts as a briefing room. Iran gets to have a proper funeral for their supreme leader. America gets to reload and move some assets in and out of the region. Prepare for potentially taking the islands or escorting ships through the strait. That sort of stuff. So both sides have military reasons to want a 2-week break. Of course, Israel's not happy about the ceasefire. And of course, there's Lebanon. Israel doesn't want to stop the war in Lebanon. But yeah. And regarding, But I think the biggest concern about this ceasefire is that it looks like America just let Iran just take ownership over the strait. So it's going to be jointly owned between Iran and Oman, But I think it's actually outrageous. The Strait of Hormuz is international water, and Trump is just letting an enemy state capture it. So think of it like this: think of water as land. Let's say there's a war between America and Cuba after the war captured the Panama Canal. I think everyone would agree that war was a Cuban victory because the Cubans now own the Panama Canal. Well, I think this war, if you look at it that way, I think this war, if Iran does actually get ownership over the Strait of Hormuz, is a decisive Iranian victory. And you look at Iraq, they took an island from Iraq, and that's what caused the Iran-Iraq war, because Saddam Hussein, he wanted that island Iraq claimed, and under the Shah he couldn't get it. But the Iranian Revolution, they were destabilizing Iran, spreading propaganda, and Saddam Hussein decided to start a war while they were weak, and of course they weren't that weak. And then they launched a massive war and refused to accept peace, and it was a whole thing. Kind of like the Russo-Ukrainian war. And of course they took those islands from Iran. So I think if you look at the Shah and the Islamic Republic, both are expansionist, imperialist powers. Because countries are not the French predicted that there would be a Sino-Soviet split because of nationalism and stuff. So yeah, pretty much countries and nationalism, they have spirit. So whether it's monarchy, republic, communist, or liberal, each country has its own national spirit and act like that country. So I think what's important isn't the government or the ideology. What's important is the people. So in order to change the country, you need to change the people. So yeah, since Iran is still Persian, even after the Islamic Revolution, its imperialist ideology was Islamic Republic, but it was still expansion. It still pretty much acts like the Shah and stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. So not much has changed, and them taking the Strait of Hormuz is just a step further in that thing. So don't have much more to say. Regarding the Strait, I think ownership of Strait is like a massive victory for Iranian Empire. Like during the Israeli wars, the wars that started in 2023, this war, Israel has had massive victories. The biggest victory was Syria. So like Iran's taken a beating. They lost Syria to Israel. But capturing the strait, that is a massive victory for Iran. And they've basically won the war. So that is all.